Good Saturday morning, everybody. Today is September 12th, 2020. Thank you so much for joining us. We're very happy to have you. We are still having some folks join in. This is our third monthly accountability group session for our Redeem Investments firm and the Redeem Team Mastermind. So grateful to have you join us today. There's folks joining us from across the country, and it seems like every month we're doubling or tripling the size of the folks registering for these things. So definitely gaining some momentum, and really excited about the guests that we have for you today. So today, the title of today's MAGS session is Multifamily Property Management Pro Tips. And joining us is Mr. Ken Barjam, longtime in the multifamily property management space, and he'll tell you all about himself here in a moment. But I just say it out of the gate that I am super excited about having him here, in large part because the relationship that we've developed, the great work that he and his team have done for us over the course of time. We've known each other going on almost a year now. And really, without him, I don't think we would have been able to execute the business plan that we launched for the property that we acquired in Arlington, Texas. And so, looking forward to continuing the relationship and taking down more and more more and more properties together, and continuing to produce the same type of results that we've been able to do there so far. Before I get into asking Ken any questions, I do want to take the opportunity for those who have not had a chance to learn about our company, just to give you a high-level overview of who we are and what we do. So Redeem Investments is a real estate investing company based in Austin, Texas. The majority of our portfolio is here in the Texas market. We are looking at opportunities outside of the state. However, the acquisitions that we've made so far have been in Houston and in Dallas, Fort Worth area, looking in Central Texas as well. But so far, those are the places that we've acquired properties. On the left side, Redeem Commercial Real Estate, really that is the lion's share of what we do at Redeem Investments. That is the vertical that houses all of our real estate investing on the commercial side, namely apartment buildings. The Redeem Concierge Services is a way for us to be able to provide value-added services to the tenants who reside in our apartment communities, namely in the form of telecom services, so cable, internet, energy services, a range of different things that folks would otherwise have to go and source on their own. These are just value-added things that we provide, and of course, some of those things do in fact allow us to increase the income that we generate from the property, because these are services that do require additional revenue to be sourced from the tenants. Redeem Team Mastermind really is what you're experiencing right now. The Redeem Team Mastermind essentially is our formalized joint venture partnership program, wherein we allow members of our group to participate in various roles, such as someone who finds deals, someone who serves as the boots on the ground. If on the monetary side of things, if they have the means to take care of the earnest money deposit, or the cost of due diligence, those are different roles and opportunities that we have for folks who want to be part of the mastermind, and they get a commensurate portion of the general partner interest, as well as continue to gain experience so that they can continue to do these types of things independently, should they choose, or continue to partner with us in that capacity. It comes with all sorts of resources and tools and access to folks like Ken, who's a Redeem Team expert on our panel, and also meetings and events that we do. What you're experiencing now is called a monthly accountability group session. Typically, this is reserved for our mastermind members, but for now, we've opened it up to the general public so that folks can get to witness exactly what we do on these things. This is sort of an abbreviated version of that. but we do feature a guest speaker like Mr. Barjam today, who will be speaking about a relevant topic to the multifamily space. And then the last one here, Redeem Realty Solutions, that's really how we started out, which was in the residential space. And there's not a lot that we do there now, but should an opportunity come about, we may take advantage of that, but that's not sort of our primary line of business at this point. What we offer effectively is rated or asymmetrical returns rather, and what that means is, we're pursuing the types of properties that will produce above average returns, but at below average risk. And I can talk really when I talk through the case study here in a moment about how it is that we do that, and really in partnership with Ken and property management is how we execute on those things. You see the other aspects here, things that we offer in terms of providing access to income-producing assets, tax advantages thereof. I talked about the joint venture partnership through the mastermind, and these other two items here that I mentioned earlier. All of this within the framework of providing clean, safe, affordable places for people to live. I mean, that's sort of the underlying thing of what we do is really turning around and improving communities. In the course of doing so, we want to provide a pretty solid return for our investors. I'll pause now on the case study. We'll review that here in a moment, and we'll sort of integrate it in the conversation with Ken. I do want to transition to talking directly to Ken, more so in a just a conversational interview format, because he has a lot of knowledge and a lot of expertise in this space. And I'm just so grateful that he's part of our Redeem Team expert panel, so that you guys, through our conversation and really through accessing the resources that we have, get to benefit from someone like him. And so we'll just start there, Ken. I didn't give sort of the verbose type of introduction that I typically would have, and it could very well do for you. But why don't you start by just telling us about you and your company?
Oh, let's see. I started in property management in about 1978 as a maintenance man. Did 4 years in the Marine Corps as an air controller. When I got out, I was looking for a job, and I kind of stumbled into that. That led to a regional maintenance position, which led to a regional manager position with several different management companies at the time. Spent the last 40 years with Pinnacle, 5 years with them. They're in the top 20, I think, management companies. Con Am, another top 20. It's been a wild ride, I'll tell you that. I've really enjoyed it. This business is something that is, I don't even know how to describe it. It's amazing because every day is different. Our company was formed, this particular group was formed in 2014. The idea was to provide due diligence, property management, asset management, and project management to clients that were looking to acquire properties and reposition them, or just to manage them as in a normal situation. We started out real simply up by UNT. It was just me, and then as we've grown, I've added people that kind of fit the mold. Almost everybody here, with maybe one exception, and there's about 45 of us now, we're by referral. In other words, we kind of tried to stay with people that we knew that fit. We have an entrepreneurial base that I think kind of lays out the mentality of the company. The idea is that every property is different, and each property requires its own strategy because they all have their own personalities. And so, it's been a lot of fun. The people that I think that matter are the people on the site. That's kind of our philosophy. The most important person is the manager on your property, because they're there every single day, and we just need to make sure that you have the best possible people driving your boat. If you want to think of it that way.
Sure. Yeah, and about that. Yeah, exactly. Got it. Thank you. That's very helpful. Well, let's continue on the topic of you. So what motivates you? What's your why? Why are you in this business to begin with?
It was mostly out of necessity. When I was in college, I wanted to be a child psychologist, but when I got out, I realized that was not for me. It just the money wasn't there, and the opportunities weren't there. And I ended up in real estate, and I'll tell you, it's exciting. I mean, the challenges are great. The situations that you run into are always interesting. The people, I mean, if you think about it, we're dealing with people where they live. I mean, that's the crux of their life, and so you get to see things and do things that most people never get to do. I was thinking about it when we had talked earlier, and I mean, I've had tornadoes, I've had fires, I've had earthquakes, I've had murders, I've had gang members, I've had challenges with the city with respect to inspections and construction challenges, and it's exciting every day, and we have a lot of fun doing it. It's not stressful. It's not. I mean, it can be intense once in a while, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, you get to take something that is worth X, and when you're done, it's worth Z, and everybody's happy, and the residents are happy, the investors are happy, my team is happy because we get to see the before and after product. It's just an exciting business. It is a lot of fun. People say to me, I'm going to be 65 next year, and they say, well, when are you going to retire? And I don't think I'm ever going to retire. I think I'm going to work till I drop. Why would I give up, the excitement of every day? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's exciting for me to hear you describe it that way, because you are right. There are a lot of exciting times. There are also a lot of challenging times, and both from my standpoint in the chair that I sit in, as well as yours. And so I think for me, it's comforting and reassuring when I have someone who I'm partnered with, like you, who has that outlook and takes on challenges head on, and sort of doesn't shy away from what those things are, and really looks at them as an adventure or a mountain to climb or an obstacle to overcome. So that's very important. If you had to sum up sort of how you see the role of the property manager fitting into the grand scheme of apartment real estate investing, what would that be, or how would you describe that?
I think, well, obviously we're here to build value and to create a situation where, your income is through the roof and your expenses are under control. But beyond that, the idea is that, I think how to put this, if from the beginning through due diligence, we get a good idea of what the property needs. After that, and once we take it over, during the due diligence period is the finalization of the planning part, the management plan, as it were. And then, once you start to implement that, I think that you get a much better idea about how things are going, and you can make adjustments as you go. I think that through a rehab or a project, you work through the differences. You've already done your homework to make sure that you've got the rents right, that you've got the expenses right, that you've got the improvements that you need. You work through with the city, and then once that's complete, and your lease up is complete, then you change modes, and you're in a normal operating mode, which is a whole different animal, because right. Everything has changed. Your contractors are off the sites, and now it's about continuing and building up that relationship with your residents to make sure that they're happy, because we don't want them to go anywhere. And on the client side, through all of that, I mean, you guys are a perfect example. I mean, we're an entrepreneurial base, and so are you. And we like working with people that are hands-on, and you guys are hands-on. You're right there with us. You're accessible all the time. It's a great relationship that allows us to really be more successful, as opposed to, differences of opinions that, should never exist. One of the things that I really liked about you guys was that you took the time to get to know us first before you kind of jumped off the cliff. It was, it was a little bit of a lead in, and that's the best way to do it, because then, we had an opportunity, you and I, to align and to kind of get on the same page and get a comfort zone with each other. Because when you think about it, I mean, you're handing us, multi-million-dollar piece of property to run on your behalf. And,
Right.
and we have to have that trust and that level of comfort with each other, to where, if something is, not going right, or if there are issues, then we can bring them up and talk about it. And it's all about the business. It's not about anything else. And, and working with you guys has been great. I mean, all the people that we've dealt with have been wonderful. So, it's that probably to me is one of the most important things about, a management company, is that you pick somebody or a group that fits you. And I mean that wholeheartedly. And been just really happy working with you guys.
Yeah. I think the other thing I was going to ask you, actually, so we're going to come back to that topic a little bit later here. But you bring up a good point, which is how would you go about recommending or going about identifying and hiring a property management company that you would work with?
Well, I think there are several out there. You want to look at what is your style. If you are entrepreneurial, and to me, there's only two. You're either entrepreneurial or you are institutional. Institutional would be pension funds, large investment groups, and the mentality from that level is all about the numbers. There's not really much people in it. On the entrepreneurial side, you have people that tend to be a lot more involved. And so some management companies will respond to that in a positive way, and that works for us. And others, they don't want a lot of owner involvement. And so I think the best thing to do is to sit down and talk to, you start out with a sales guy, and he runs through his spiel and tells you all that. And then usually you'll get some senior staff people. And that's good. You want to ask about communication. Who can I talk to? Who do I reach out to when I have issues? How do I resolve problems? But the reality is that, and I touched on this earlier, no matter what you do, no matter who you hire, the person that really should matter to you as an individual is who is going to be on your site. Who is that manager? Who is that maintenance guy? And those people you should have an opportunity to talk to as well, because you need to know if you have, just an initial comfort zone, but beyond that, a comfort that you're going to be able to communicate with them and that they're going to be able to communicate back with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that makes perfect sense. And that's sort of the questions that I have later on as well is around communication. You already talked about alignment of goals and strategies. So we'll touch on that in a bit. I think the thing that I recognized as well when we were shopping around basically for a property management for this property was that not every company provides sort of full scope of the repositioning strategy, and which is what I needed. Otherwise, I would have had to, sort of hire my own general contractor, go through the scope of work and all of that stuff, which is a lot more intensive. Which is fine if that's what I need to do, and I'm familiar with knowing how to do that. But then there's also the component of actually managing the property. And so in your case, it sort of was a beautiful thing that you guys provide all of that. And so maybe speak to that a little bit, Ken. Is do all property managers provide that project repositioning full scale service that you all do, or is that just not always part of the plan?
No, I think not all of them do, and you need to be cautious because there are a lot of management companies that will say, we have our own construction and our own all of these pieces that need to be third party, even from the management company. There's no reason. I mean, management companies, their income is based on your management fees. And maybe some ancillary services if you add some other things. Beyond that, when you get in the project management side, you want somebody that does not profit from your construction, as if they own the construction company, because then their interest is theirs. It's not really yours. And so what we've done is we have met and dealt with contractors over and over and over in situations where we've created a relationship that is, hey, we've got this work. We will continue to use you as long as you give us good pricing. At the same time, as these projects come up, one of the things that we'll do is we'll run a second or a third bid just to keep that group honest. And in some cases, we find that some of them, it is better to go to maybe somebody different than who you usually use. But the main point is that not everybody does it, and it needs to be separate in that it's not their company. They don't own it, because otherwise you have identity of interest issues, and that can be a real problem from a cost standpoint. Just the last thing is that that is another relationship, much the same as we have a great relationship, you and I.
Mm-hmm.
We also have to have a good relationship with those people that are doing these projects. And so you. And one of the things I liked about you guys was, you came out and you met with Edwin, the contractor, and you walked the jobs and you got to meet these people, because I think you need to have a comfort zone as this is your money. You're putting this money into this project. You want to know that, it's going to be done right. And it's nice to hear it from a management company. But when you actually talk to those people as individuals and get to know them as people, which you have, then I think all of a sudden you get a little bit more comfortable. The last piece is that with us, you can communicate directly with them. You don't have to call me to go to them. There are situations where I think there were questions that came up and you guys wanted to know the answer. And I think we just had you call directly to the people that were actually doing the work. And that makes a huge difference, because that way you can be comfortable in what's going on. Sometimes you guys have brought things to our attention that were outside of what we were looking at that has been very helpful. So that three-way relationship is big. If you're dealing with a company that has everything in-house, then you're almost stuck to that one person again, and you don't have that ability to have that outside view.
No, that's good insight, Ken. I've heard sort of the other side of it as well, where some companies will tout sort of a fully, a vertical integrated model, right, where they've got all the stuff in house and all the benefits of that, and to some degree, I could see where that might be the case, but as you've laid it out, it sort of presents angles that someone should be aware of. So that's helpful to know. Thank you for that. I think this is a good time to sort of go through the case study, simply because you described a little bit of the project management aspect of what you all do. I sort of want to show everybody how we've been the benefactor of that through the property that you're managing for us. And let me go there. And actually, as I'm going through this, let me pause. For those who are listening in, if you have questions that I've not asked or that you'd like to pose, there is a Q&A a button there that you can click on, and I'm monitoring that so that if questions come through, I can ask to Ken. So don't be shy. We're all friends. We're family. You can ask questions, and I'll send it over to Ken here. I can see those questions as they come in. So as it relates to the case study, I'll give sort of a high-level overview for everybody who may not be familiar. So the property is located right across the street from Cowboy Stadium. There's the property address. It has 44 units. All of them are 2-bedroom, 2-bath, about 1,000 square feet. So nice size for families with young kids. And it was 100% occupied when we bought it. And interestingly, all of those were on month-to-month, which it could be a double-edged sword. For us, it was a positive thing because we knew that we were going to renovate as many of those units as needed to be, and you'll see here in a moment, 28 of them is what we were targeting. Vintage 1965, this is when it was built. We purchased it on the 5th of November of last year, and so we're still 2 months shy of that. Ken, can you believe that?
Yeah, gone really quick.
We're still 2 months shy of that, and you'll see here how much we've gotten done as far as renovation. We bought it for 3.8. We have a 2-year bridge loan on it, 80% loan to value. They also provide 100% of the renovation. Of course, when we went in, we thought the renovation would be about 700. Ended up being more than that, as you see on the right-hand side there. But we were, I think, smart to have some capital reserves as part of our capital raise in order to fund that extra $150,000. The average rent when we bought it was $904 per month. 8 of the units had been renovated to a point of garnering a $1,300 per month rent. 8 of them were sort of partially renovated. They were at 1050 at the time. All of those, I believe, right now are at 1100 through lease renewals, etc. But 28, so this is the kicker, 28 of those were rented at 750 per month. Can you believe that, Ken?
Yeah.
When we got it under contract. Of course, while it was under contract, those all increased to 850 per month. And what that meant for us was that that extra annualized $33,000 of incremental NOI equated to $500,000 in incremental value. So even though we bought at 3.8, technically this thing was worth 4.2. You see on the right-hand side the cost of the renovations, all the things that were included there. I won't go through all of those, but pretty extensive and a heavy lift, and really a lot of work to be proud of by Ken, us, that we worked with. The stabilized value here, I sort of am understating it just for conservatism. Depending on the cap rate that the lender lands on, this could very well be north of even 6.8, which means that we effectively have almost doubled the value of this property in less than a year's time. So when Ken talks about taking it from X to Z, as he put it, this is exactly what he's talking about. And he's done this numerous times for other projects. And so this is really the reason why I decided to work with him, is his experience in doing exactly this. So interestingly, in part because I had a 2-year loan on this, I was estimating the project timeline to be over a 24-month period, which includes a 3-month buffer. The phase one, and typically the way that we like to do these things is start on the outside, move to the inside, and then work on the tenant base. In this case, and I think part of what cut our project timeline to the shorter time period that it has is Ken coordinated it such that we could do both interior and exterior simultaneously. And so, he had crews out there working not technically around the clock, but a significant amount of time every day, where we were knocking out, I think 4 units almost per week during a period of time at the beginning once we got things going. So you can see here over the course of time, even though I planned for 24 months, really it took us and it's taken us almost less than that, almost 9 to 10 months. And so now we're entering into what is called sort of the seasoning period, where we have to demonstrate over a 90-day time frame that we're over 90% occupied. I want to say we're actually 100% leased at this point. There may be 1 unit still that we're needing to fill. But the clock is sort of started on that time frame that the lender is going to look back and see, well, what is the value of this property, so that we can execute that cash out refinance that is part of our plan, so that we can return capital to investors, and that they can then use that capital to invest in our other deals, and so on. Meanwhile, they continue to get cash flow from this property. And so that's really, cat's out of the bag. That's really our investment thesis, is that's the way that we accelerate returns and lower risk. If we're able to take all the risk off the table for the investors and return all their capital, they technically have 0 money in the deal, and yet they continue to get cash flow, which by definition, that would be an infinite return. And so that's what we're targeting. Can't always do that, but that is what we're targeting. Those are types of properties that we are pursuing, which is further underscores the need and the desire for a partnership with Ken's group, because this is exactly what they do. And so very about that. Just to show you the location of this property, you really can't see it here, but right where this red marker is, 1600 East Sanford Street, this is where our property is. Here on the left side is Cowboy Stadium. Immediately to the right of that is the new Ranger Stadium. Right behind that is a place called Texas Live, which is sort of an indoor-outdoor bar restaurant scene. It's really hip and cool. And then the old stadium, Six Flags up here in the top right corner. So you can see, this is in close proximity to a lot of things happening, and is technically in the entertainment district, where, by the way, the city of Arlington has carved out a geographic marker around the entertainment district where short-term rentals are allowed. And so we're actually doing some of that as well on our property. From here, you can see the stadium from the parking lot here. And I want to show you now some before and after photos, starting with the outside. And so you see on the left side what it looked like before, now with some of the fencing and things added, sun screens on the windows. You can see sort of behind the fencing, the French doors that we installed there, obviously new paint. And here as well, before and after, just a night and day. I think, Ken, this was before perhaps the LED lights were installed, but we have installed those now, obviously for both economic reasons as well as safety, just to keep things nice and bright in the evening, and security purposes. Here is some pictures of the new landscaping that just got completed last week. Looks really, really nice and just adds a different dimension to the property than what was there before. And then here is the laundry facility, just some before and afters there as well. Now moving to the inside, you see what it looked like before on the left, afterwards with the faux wood flooring. You see the kitchen in the distance there. You see, you can't see the ceiling fan here, but you can see sort of the cords hanging down. The baseboards, I mean, just really top-notch work by the team. Here's a picture of the kitchens left and right. Ken, as I'm going through these, you're probably looking at these like, man, this is like looking at pictures of your baby. We've got stainless steel appliances in there. We've got the granite countertops. Of course, the new cabinets, shaker style with the hardware, the Pole's undermounted sink, gooseneck faucets. Here's another angle of the kitchen. There you go. Obviously, I'm showing kitchen and bath because obviously those are the main centerpieces that folks typically look for in these. This is the bathroom, what it looked like before and after. Got the surround tile here. We converted this in the bedroom to a walk-in shower with the glass doors. I mean, really just top-notch work, as I said. So all that said, so it's one thing to look at sort of what the pictures look like before and after, and that's really neat. And you can look at HGTV and watch that to see some of that stuff on residential properties. But now this is sort of where the rubber meets the road, is through the execution of this BRRRR strategy, which is buy, renovate, refinance, buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and then repeat. That strategy that can be used in the residential realm, but we're using in the commercial realm. That's how we're able to execute both this idea of preserving capital for our investors, because we're taking it out of the deal as quickly as we can, and then increasing the velocity of money, how quickly they can turn that money over and over. So this was what we projected, and we're well ahead of schedule. But effectively, our investors who provided the minimum, which was $50,000 in this deal, over a 5-year time frame, they can expect to get a total of $54,930 back, which is more than a 2x multiple on that. The rate at which they would get that money back is what really drives that IRR up to where it shows to be there. So really exciting stuff here as far as the economic impact for our investors with execution of this strategy. I do want to highlight some of Ken's other projects, just to sort of give some more in terms of what they were able to take and then what they were able to produce out of that. And I'm sure there are stories behind each of these things that we won't get into now, but just suffice it to say that this is Ken's specialty, and for us, as I said earlier, because our plan is to execute the BRRRR strategy for apartment buildings, we need to be partnered up with a property management company that can do this type of work on our behalf and execute the plan. All right, a question came in. How did I calculate 2 months for phase 1 based on experience? I see. Okay, so the question is in regards to determining that it would take 2 months to complete this type of work. So, so for the person who asked that question, part of what Ken alluded to earlier was a high level of communication, working together to determine strategy, and really it was through those early conversations and getting alignment on the timeline, the aspects of the project that would be completed and when. It is effectively how I was able to determine that would be the amount of time needed in order to do those things there. Not everything not everything was done in the first 2 months per se, but the total amount of time it took to complete those things, I would say, within that time frame.
Hey, Christian, I think that what's important here is that when you do this, the first 3 months, you want to do the exterior as quickly as possible to set the stage so that when you start leasing in month 2 or 3 or 4, when the people arrive, you have them at hello. And not only that, but it also gives you an opportunity for your existing tenants to see the value in what you're creating, in situations as you had, where they had transferred from the units they were in at a lower rent into the renovated units at the much higher rent because they were so impressed with what they saw.
And I mean, that's so important. If people will be more inclined to pay the market rent, and that's really all we're asking. We're not asking for above and beyond what the market demands. People will be more inclined to pay that, especially if they've been below that. If they see that, hey, this new owner is really investing time and money into this property, and it's going to be a better place for me to live and to raise my kids and all those things. So good point. I think if I had to do something different here, I think, Ken, we probably would have tried to take care of that landscaping earlier in the process. I think that would be the only thing that we would change. We just got that completed, but it does, to Ken's point, add to the curb appeal of the property. And when people walk on, they can see, wow, this place is really well taken care of. And then they walk into one of the renovated units and they're just wowed by the place. And so that is the response that we're looking for. So good call on that. So Ken, I showed everybody some of the other projects you've done. Can you sort of break it down for us a little bit? What's the secret sauce? How is it that you're able to produce these types of results time and time again?
I think you have to really look at the bones of the property you're starting with. The one on your screen right now was in Plano. The idea was, it had that mansard look. The rents here were about, I want to say they were about 600 to start, and went to 900. We took a look at the market, what it would bear, what we needed to do to the property to change the look and change the perspective of it. Beyond that, you have to stop and think about, what is the exit strategy? And with respect to not just, you have a purchase price, you have a renovation price, and so you have an all-in. In the case of this property in Plano, they bought at about $70,000 a unit. They put 26 a unit in at total. There was a lot of work, so they're all in at 96. And so we wanted to make sure that this is something that they could refi out at 130 a unit, or thereabouts. And so you have the beginning. Do you have a good base to begin with? Because you don't want your repairs or renovations to go over budget. And then can you hit the rents? And then what is your exit or your refi strategy? Each one is different. And so we look at them to say, how can I make a dynamic change to the exterior so that people almost drive by thinking it's a brand new property? Right. That's really what you want. And then to be sure that you're going to be able to get the rents, and there's a couple of different strategies that I'm not going to go too far into. There's the one where you want to have that only be in a C group, or you want to buy a property that's the ugly duckling on the block and bring it to the standard, or maybe even above that of the ones next door, and all of a sudden you change everything. Or an older property in the middle of a newer, or mostly renovated area, and you jump in there and that's the one. I mean, it becomes pretty obvious, but
Yeah.
the inspection is the most important, because then you get an idea of what you're looking at, and because you don't want surprises. That's what ruins everybody's deal. No surprises allowed. So we crawl on top, inside, underneath. I mean, anywhere we have to try and get the best possible picture.
Yeah, and actually, let's jump there, because you did answer a question earlier, and you talked about, already the importance of trust and communication and alignment of the vision in the relationship with the property owner. We've touched on that a little bit, so I think that's pretty self-evident at this point. But the thing that you just mentioned, as far as no surprises, is the other thing that I really enjoy working with you on, and not every property management company does this, and so and what I'm talking about is pre-due diligence, or even before I make an offer on the property, and then the actual due diligence process with lease file audits and physical walks through each unit and all of those things. You want to be as certain as possible as to what it's going to cost to fix that property, and have no surprises. And then of course build in some contingency for the surprises, because inevitably they're going to come, but you don't want any big surprises. So maybe talk about that service that you offer, Ken, why it is that you guys do that, and because I know that not every property management company does that.
What we're trying to do is to have the whole banana relationship, where, I mean, we are one. And so a lot of times, what we'll do is the clients will call when they're just looking at it, and we'll just go do a drive-by and do a cursory CapEx review and say, this is the situation as we see it, because you don't have the opportunity to crawl inside the units at that point. Once that kind of gives us an idea about, is this a repositioning, or is this kind of a continue on and try and maximize it as it is? Beyond that, then we go into, once it's under contract, we go in due diligence. We'll walk every single unit. We'll try and reaffirm the strategy to say, okay, and obviously the initial review includes the rent analysis in the area also. But
sure.
So then the second you go in, you're doing the due diligence, you're looking at the units, you're kind of confirming, you're looking for hidden surprises, things that the sellers don't tell you, because they're always there. There's always something. And
right.
That's an interview process with the residents. That's an interview process with the staff. That's a real casual conversation that sometimes can trip up the seller to kind of give you a hint to something that has you then a direction to go to try and analyze and see what else is there. Beyond that, once a project starts, you inevitably have issues. You cannot stick a camera inside every wall, but if you can minimize those, and as you said, have your contingency. And then there's another piece to that too, is when you're using the same contractors over and over and over, change orders are the way of strangers. That's
right.
When I deal with a stranger, I don't see a stranger coming, I see a change order coming. And so when I have these relationships with these people, I let them know, look, I cannot survive change orders. The capital raise that's done initially is the money. That is it. There is no more. You have to stay within that. And
right.
So a lot of times what they'll do, when issues come up, is we'll find ways to work through it together. And that maybe there's a piece, when you have a guy who's doing multiple pieces of it, maybe there's a way that, okay, well, this is going to cost us a little more. Can you give me a break on this piece or that piece? I don't mean change it. I don't mean reduce it. I mean just reduce the price, reduce your profit over here. Now, why would they do that? People say, well, he's going to cut corners, or he's going to do something on the cheap. No, because he's the same guy I'm using for the last 5 years, or the 5 years in the future. He knows that if he tries to do something, and first of all, I'll catch him when he puts it in. But we don't, I don't have that problem. But my point is that you have an opportunity to see exactly what they're doing as they do it. But once they've worked through things with you before, because there are other times when there are areas where instead of he makes a little bit of extra money. In other words, the project comes out better for him than he thought it would. And so you take those pluses and minuses as part of the relationship. It's kind of like a relationship with your spouse. I mean, my mother told me, marry a woman with a set of faults you can live with, right? Because we all have faults, right? I mean, things happen. So
Right.
that in mind, that relationship is really what kind of makes us successful as well. The bricks that you're looking at right there, that property it's 53 units. It's right off the uptown area. There's a bunch of A properties like 2 blocks from this place. It was 53 units. They paid $53,000 a unit. She put $21,000 a unit in it, which was $1.1 million. This is going to blow your mind. So this thing refied out at 122 a unit. That was the value they assessed. I don't know if she pulled all that. She could have pulled up to 122. So she was all in at like 70 and change.
It's crazy.
Well, the reality, like her value at the end was the same increase that she paid. In other words, she made $50,000 a unit. She paid $50,000 a unit. Rents here were 600. They went to 9. It was a lot of fun, and that was a complete. That job is surrounded by a bunch of brand new property. And they are still full. It is still humming along. They are doing very well.
Awesome. I will say that, going back to the due diligence piece, I mean, there's a couple of projects that I looked at, Ken, that you were kind enough to go and visit on my behalf, and provided me with numbers and feedback. So I recall one, but just the numbers didn't pencil out, and so we ended up not pursuing that. But you saved me the headache and the heartache of going through that process. The other thing is, it sounds like anytime I have something I'm looking at in the DFW area, you've just been around for so long, and about certain places, and whether in fact the path of progress has arrived or to that place or not, or if it's still sort of ridden with crime. You've helped us avoid some of those situations as well. And so overall, I mean, you're doing more than just managing our property or doing the renovation repositioning on the property that we have. You're also helping me evaluate new opportunities. What I would love next, as we talked about before, is as you come across any of these properties like this one here, that we can buy on the cheap, fix up, and then be worth a lot more, man, that would be sort of the next evolution of our relationship that I'm looking forward to.
Me as well. Yes,
sir. Let's do this. Let's look to close out, Ken. My goal is always try to keep these within an hour, especially on a Saturday morning. Maybe just talk a little bit about, I think you alluded to this earlier. What does that then look like as far as how does this focus shift for you? What does that then mean as far as staffing? And maybe just describe the typical costs of the service that you offer, if you could sort of round it out that way.
Okay. I missed the very first part of what you said.
Just after a renovation is complete and now you're shifting into actually just operating the property, what does that then look like?
Well, if you've done a full renovation, your operating cost per unit is going to drop significantly because you have new air conditioners, new appliances, new fixtures, plumbing and electrical. So your maintenance costs go down. Your operating costs run much lower for about the first 3 years after a renovation like this, much the same as what you've done over at Stanford. Mm-hmm. You will reap those benefits for the first 3 years, which will be very nice. From on management side, as far as cost, I mean, for us, we love doing this because this thing goes from being an all-encompassing, job to just regular maintenance and just regular property management, which is relatively easy because we've created together a project or a product that is in demand, that it becomes known quickly and has a reputation of its own. That, coupled with the right person on the site, creates that environment when somebody walks in that they immediately feel this is where I want to be. We like to say from the renovation, once it's done, we have them at hello when they drive up. When we open the door, we have them at hello when they see the inside of that unit. There's not a whole lot of sales required. It's almost as quick as, well, where do I sign? And and that obviously goes to the screening and so on after that. Were you talking about up costs from a management company charging?
Yeah, so I think there may be folks on the line who may be wondering, okay, well, what does it cost to partner
Oh,
with somebody like Ken's group,
yeah,
both in terms of recurring expenses, is there a management fee,
sure.
who pays the person that's on site, that kind of thing.
Okay, so the managers are paid by the owner, by the property. They are part of the expenses. Property expenses, and we look at it at an operating cost per unit. Some people will quote you price per foot. For us, it's per unit. They can run anywhere from probably the mid 4,000 range up to 7 or 8,000. The difference being what type of infrastructure do you have? How old is the property? What condition is it in? With respect to staffing, the people on site, it's our philosophy to pay them well. You'll see one of the other downfalls of some of the other companies is that they're constantly changing the manager, constantly changing the maintenance guy. And what happens with that is you don't get any continuity, and your residents don't either, and so that becomes a problem. Management fees can range anywhere from probably 2.75, which is really low, and this is kind of general industry stuff. 2.75% is going to be based on maybe you bring 1,000 units at
Mm-hmm.
once. If you have 3 or 4, maybe 400 units in multiple places, you'll be at 3%. And then it goes all the way up to as much as 7% on a small property, which would be around 25 units or 30 units that doesn't have a manager. Management fees get really high because there is nobody on site. So the management company is actually doing all the work in-house.
Right.
Those deals are very, we have a few that, where they're in the 20s, and when we lose money, when we do that typically only because that person is on their way to bigger purchases and bigger properties, and we want to create a relationship with them that is going to last for years. And that's our goal is to be. I mean, Christian, if I have my way, I'm going to be with you for the next 20 if I can live that long, because the relationship is amazing, and you guys are smart. You know what you're doing. You think about things. You don't just jump off and buy something because you're in a hurry or because there's an urge. You stop and you think and you make sure. And so we have that same measured level of risk. What is the risk factor that we really want to take on? And we agree on that. So, and I'm not in a big hurry to just sign somebody up, despite the fact that their deal is never going to work. Nor are you in a hurry to just buy a property because you need to place that money, which I like. And that is rare. There's a lot of people out there that are sucking money up from investors, and they're just buying something, and they're not really thinking it through, and they're not really doing a lot of analysis. And you guys do that. You really get into it. And I really appreciate that, because it makes my job easier, to be honest with you. It does, because you've thought it out, you understand what's going on, and there's no intense or high level risk stuff with you guys. So, but yeah. So at the end of the day, the ideal size is around 100 units. The minute you can put a manager on a site, which is what you guys have at the Sanford property, I think we're at 44. Lucy's there. We can get some economies of scale, and I think that just works out better. But I'm going to say one thing one more time. The most important person that you want to interview, or that you want to hire, or that you want to make sure that is that person that's going to be sitting on your site. Ken is great. Oh yeah, Ken knows everything. He's been around forever. Ken's not the guy that's sitting on your property every day. The one that's sitting on your property every day is the one that's watching your money, making sure that you are protected and that your interests are guarded.
Yeah, well said, Ken. I mean, you touched on a ton of stuff there towards the end. I fully agree with that. I appreciate the kudos as it relates to our disciplined analysis, our disciplined approach. I think it's comforting to hear that, because we look through so many deals, and it does get frustrating when the number that I feel like we should pay simply doesn't match up with what they're asking for, and there's just too big of a gap to bridge, and we end up passing on those deals, and I sort of walk away kicking the dirt, but I know it's the right thing to do, and I don't want to put any investors or us or you in sort of a precarious situation where we're trying to figure out how do we get out of this. I know what that feels like and don't want to be in that. So thank you, Ken, for the insight. I will say, so sort of shameless plug for the mastermind. What you just delivered for us over the past hour, Ken, I think is just so valuable for people who are interested in getting in the game, who are interested from the standpoint of being a limited partner as a potential investor for us, or learning how to be a general partner or a syndicator, how to buy, what to do once those apartments are bought, who to partner with. There's a lot of different moving pieces. A critical element and a critical component of all of it really is having the right property manager. So I'm really glad that Ken was able to come on. For those interested in learning more, you can go to redeeminvestments.com. Actually, scratch that. You can't go there yet. We're launching that within the next couple of weeks. If you go there, it'll forward you to our mastermind page, which is up. And if you'd like to register for the mastermind, there is a selection process. And so you would first register at redeeminvestments.com/mastermind, input your information, and then we'll be prompted with that information, at which point an acceptance, if an acceptance is provided, at that point payment can be made. But as I mentioned earlier, the mastermind effectively is a JV partnership program. It is ideal for those who are aspiring to be a general partner, to do what I'm doing, and those really willing to hold themselves accountable and to learn and contribute during these sessions. At some point here in the future, right after this session takes place, we would have an additional 30 minutes exclusively for mastermind members to talk through other aspects of what we're doing. Being a member does provide access to invaluable resources, training, events. We just had we do a quarterly meetup. The last one was in Orange Beach, Alabama. Ken, I should have invited you to this. My apologies that I didn't, but it was we had a full day of deep sea fishing, followed by a dinner event whereby I presented a master class on real estate investing. The one before that was at a Mark Anthony concert here in Austin, and I rented out a luxury box suite for us after a 2-hour seminar that I did. You'll like this one, Ken. The next one that we're planning will likely be in December at a Cowboys home game, and I'll rent out a box suite there, and I'd like to actually honor Lucy, our on-site manager, for the great work that she's done at that event. And so keep that in the back of your mind. It'll be a surprise for her.
Yes,
at any rate, so all of those events that I just described, mastermind members have free access to. The cost of that can range anywhere between $150 to $1,000, which is what the fishing trip was. The group size is limited to 50 members, and I do provide a special promotion for folks who participate on this call, and that would be a 20% discount if you register before the end of the month. So all that said, if you have more questions, you can contact us at support@redeeminvestments.com, and I will be happy to engage with you and answer any questions that you might have. So I am 1 minute over my mark, just about, but I do want to say thank you again, Ken, so much for the time you invested with us today. You provided tremendous value to the folks listening, and I know that many, many more people will watch this moving forward. And so thank you again for your time, and I look forward to continuing our partnership together.
Me as well, Christian. Thank you for the chance to talk to you. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Have a great day. Take care. Take care, everybody. God bless.